Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So we are down with the combines this morning, and we're going to start getting them ready for the next time that we can cut. We might be able to cut some this afternoon. We'll see how the weather plays out. It's nice and sunny now, but we don't have much of a breeze. So I'm going to get some fuel pumping in a Gleaner here, and then since we got some time this morning, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a video that was requested by a few viewers on how these machines work internally. You've seen the outsides of them, you've been on cab rides in them, but I've never showed you inside of the machines and how they actually work. So it's a perfect storm here. We've got the 2388 sitting on the other side, and we got the L2 here. So we can show you the difference between an axial flow Case IH combine and a cylinder type Gleaner combine. So let me get the fuel started here. It's easy if I just go up this side of the combine because my fuel hose is pretty short, so I can't really reach with it if I go up the ladder side. So I just back the truck in as close as I can and just climb up here like so. Okay, so we got that fuel going. So now we can move on to some other stuff, and we'll start our video. Okay, so we're going to start our combine tour. We'll start with the L2 Gleaner. So everybody knows how the head works from the videos. You've seen it run, you've seen from the seat. Basically, the sickles cut the bean off. The reel gently lays it over into the auger. The auger runs it across. And then the feeder drum sucks it in. Now, right behind the feeder drum is when the internal stuff starts. Right behind the feeder drum, you have the thrashing cylinder and the concave. Between the two of them, they do the thrashing of the crop right here in the beginning of the combine. Now, you can adjust how far the thrashing cylinder is actually away from the concave with these adjustments, one on each side. For corn, you need to widen it out. For soybeans, you need to tighten it up, or smaller grains. It's all fully adjustable. So once your crop has run through the thrashing cylinder, it is kicked back, and the fluffy stuff goes over the top. The chaff and grain go through the bottom of the concave, and they fall into your thrasher rattle chain, which runs underneath of all this, and it acts like a conveyor. So now we'll go behind the drive tire. I'll get squeezed in there and I'll show you inside. Okay, so we're inside now. So right here, you can see that roller chain right there, and you see the slat all the way across. That is your thrasher rattle chain. That drags everything up from underneath the concave, and you can't see the cylinder from here. Oh, you can barely see it down there. See, all the way across, you see the bolt heads on the cylinder bars. That is where the thrasher cylinder is, but you can't really see it right now. So anyways, the thrasher rattle chain drags the chaff and mixture of grain up and dumps it on the separator rattle chain right here. So these both run the width of the combine. The separator rattle chain drags it up to the top here, and we'll go in our other hole towards the back. Okay, so we're at the top of the separator rattle chain, and this is where our grain and chaff separation begins. The fluffy stuff like bean stems and things like that get flipped by this beater up on top of the straw walkers. The straw walkers walk the crop all the way back to the back of the machine and drop the stems and whatever's left into the chopper. The whole time it's walking back there, there's grain falling out of the crop, and it's falling through the straw walkers into the grain pan. Some of it does fall between here and here, and that gets started on the screens sooner than the crop that falls out of these. As these shake, that's working the grain that's underneath these on the pan. It's working it back forward and dropping it on the fronts of the screens. So now we'll go behind the combine and we'll look at the screens. Okay, so we're in the back of the combine right now, and this is the grain pan underneath of the straw walkers. As you can see, it's full length back here, dumps down in the chopper. So up there we have what I call our grain pan, and that's where everything falls from this pan under the straw walkers, and everything that's heavy that comes off the end of the rattle chain drops down there on the end of that. And that's where our final cleaning begins. So as that works back here, these screens are moving back and forth like this, and they're working the crop back. As they're doing that motion, the fan is underneath of these, and it's blowing air up through them. So it's lifting the chaff and leaves and whatever's left and blowing it out the back of the combine. So there's two levels of screens here. We've got our top screen, and then for soybeans, I run a 3/8 round hole soybean screen. Well, it's hard to see it. There you go. Still got some bean pods left in it because of kind of cutting in the rain. So anything that falls through this screen goes to the clean grain elevator and is taken up to the grain tank, and that's what goes into the truck. So anything that comes off the end of this screen and falls down in here, in this area down here, that all goes back to the return, and the return takes it right back up to the cylinder, dumps it in on top of the cylinder, and it is run back through the machine. So if there's pods with soybeans still in them get re-thrashed and run back through. So I'll show you the elevators. Okay, so we're on this side of the Gleaner combine now, and I'll show you the elevators. The big elevator right here. This is the one that takes your clean grain up to your grain tank. The smaller elevator brings your return up past the cab, where there is a little door that you can reach out the window and you can reach in. Well, it's not actually a door, it's just a hole. You can reach in there and you can grab a sample, so you can see if you've got unthrashed beans or if you're getting a lot of weed seed back around or something like that. You can make adjustments from the cab on the fly and clean your grain sample up, or determine if you need to adjust your concave or cylinder speed or something like that. Once it goes up, it drops back down and it starts the cycle all over again, gets dropped right in the cylinder, gets re-thrashed and put back through the machine. So there's a walk around of the Gleaner. Now, I should touch on the fan for the clean grain. So the cleaning fan is actually towards the front. It's not actually right under the screens like I made it sound. This is a single speed fan. There's no adjustment on the fan speed itself as far as RPMs that turn the fan. The way Gleaner achieves slowing the fan speed down is by a fan choke. There's actually a door in there that opens and closes, and that's what makes your amount of air under your screens. Unlike a case combine where you actually change the RPMs on the fan itself with variable speed pulleys. So kind of a cool way of doing it, just choking it down or opening it up instead of messing around with variable speed. But hey, they both work really good. So I grew up with red combines. I have nothing against them. I just like playing with the old Gleaners. So anyways, let's go start our tour of the red combine. Oh, and we cannot forget what happens to the rest of the crop after it goes through the straw walkers. I kind of forgot this part. It comes through and it falls down in about this area of the combine, and it goes through the chopper, where the chopper shreds it between the flails and the stationary knives and spits it out the back. Okay, so let's start our tour of the Case IH 2388 here. Unfortunately, I dropped my phone a few minutes ago and broke my receiver for my microphone, so I can't use that. I had to order another one. Clumsy me dropped my phone and it hit the ground and broke it where it plugs into my phone, so had to get a new one. So no big deal. Anyways, so the crop enters the feeder house here, just like it does in the gleaner, but there's a big difference. So this is right now full of a bunch of bean dust because we just tightened the feeder house chain up, and that was all on top of here, and we threw it in the head. So the feeder house chain grabs it, runs it up the feeder house. It slides in the bottom here. You can see the floor. This is the floor. This is just the chain coming back around. So it drags it up to the beater. Now the beaters in the rock, the beater and the rock trap are together. The idea of the beater is if there's a rock or a chunk of wood or something like that, it'll actually smack that object and smack it down in the rock trap, and it'll stay there and it won't continue on through the combine. So every once in a while we'll know that we've hit a rock, you'll hear it get that far, and every once in a while we'll stop, we'll open up that and dump it out. It's just, you just grab this handle, push it down, door opens up, the object falls out, flip it back up, and away you go. So now we'll make our way back here behind the drive tires. Okay, so we'll go in here behind the drive tire. Now I can't show it to you because we don't have that much of the combine tore apart, but in front of this wall there's actually a distribution cone, and the distribution cone acts like a funnel. When the crop material comes up from the feeder house and through the beater, the impellers on the ends of the rotor are spinning, and they actually throw the crop out to the sides and get the crop started in the vanes. The vanes act like a thread on a bolt, and there's vanes throughout the rotor as it goes up. They're basically like angle iron. You can see one here, and those act like the threads on a bolt, and the crop follows those up as the rotor spins inside the rotor cage and inside the concaves. So don't mind these concaves, they're a little bent up. They must have had a rock or something that actually made it up this far. That was all damaged prior to us buying this machine, and they don't seem to affect anything the way they are, but eventually we'll probably do something with them. But anyways, on the rotor, you got to remember this rotor's spinning at 350, 400 RPM. There are rasp bars, and the rasp bars actually rub the crop against the concaves. This concave is fully adjustable. You can bring it closer or you can move it farther away depending on what your crop is. So between the rotor turning, rubbing this all around on here, that's what causes your shelling. That's what opens the pods up and the beans fall out. So this is what you end up with in here. This mix of bean pods, stems, soybeans, all kinds of stuff. So all that falls through, and some of it also falls through the key stock grates here. These are a little more wide open. There are some rasp bars up here. You can see one right there, and this is a specialty rotor, so it's got smaller rasp bars more often than a standard rotor that's got long rasp bars. This has got a bunch of little small ones. So the crop material falls through into the auger beds. The auger beds run all this up, and they drop it on the grain pan here in front of the screens. This grain pan shakes with the screens, and it just keeps working the material onto the screens nice and evenly. So we've still got our bean stems and everything going through the rotor above, and if anything, like I said, was left, it would fall out through the key stock grates. All that stem material and crap goes back here, and it's dropped into the chopper. Then the chopper brings it around and cuts it between its stationary knives and the chopper pan down here and shreds it up, and it actually throws it over the screens all the way to the back and down onto the chaff spreaders right there, and then it's spread evenly behind the combine. So now we'll crawl in, we'll check out the screens. The screens are basically the same principle as the Gleaner. They are fully adjustable screens. There's a top screen and a bottom screen. To my knowledge, there's not actually like a 3/8 round hole bean screen for a Case IH combine or an International. I think that was a Gleaner thing, but I could be wrong. Somebody can let me know in the comments. But as far as I know, I'm pretty sure Gleaner was the only one that did that with different screens that were removable. So we do all our cleaning right here. Now this one, since we've got it tore apart, since we've been working on it quite a bit this morning, I can show you the fan. So here's the fan. And this is a variable speed pulley system that changes the speed of the fan. On this combine, if you want more airflow, this little electric motor runs and it squeezes these pulleys together, runs the belt farther out, and gives it more RPM to run the fan. You want to slow it down, the little motor runs, spreads them apart, drops the belt in deeper, changes the RPM. So the rest of this all is pretty much the same as the Gleaner, other than the way the return is re-entered back into the rotor. It comes up the return elevator here, this one, and it goes right back in the top of the rotor cage, about midway up the rotor. I don't quite think, yeah, about midway up the rotor. And then of course you've got your clean grain elevator. So the 2388 is definitely a lot bigger capacity combine, and you can tell by the sizes of the elevators. Oh, we got an elevator door open. All they are is a roller chain with a rubber paddle. The auger, the cross auger, brings the grain across, and then these paddles just take it right up the tube and put it right in the auger, and it runs into the hopper. So pretty interesting, the differences between the two machines. And it's not often that you have a chance that you can get these two machines side by side to do a video like this. You know, usually guys will own all rotaries, or they'll own all cylinder type machines, and they're all good machines, don't get me wrong. The beautiful thing about a cylinder type machine is their ability to make straw. You try to run straw through a rotary machine, especially one with a specialty rotor, it's going to shred it. So this summer when we cut wheat, it'll definitely have to be with a Gleaner, because we are going to bale the straw, and these are just too hard on straw. So we'll definitely have to use the Gleaner for all the wheat. So okay. So I forgot to talk about something real quick. We talked about the rock trap on the 2388. I forgot all about talking about the automatic ejecting thrashing door on the Gleaner. So what happens is, if you run a rock or a chunk of wood in the Gleaner, the cylinder will actually come around and smack it, and the thrasher door is right underneath the cylinder. What will happen is, when it smacks that object and hits it against the thrasher door has two latches. They're just over center latches, and with enough pressure they'll pop open. So what happens, that gets smacked, that hits the door, it'll pop the door open and automatically eject whatever object was in there. Works real nice, because you know right away that the object has done left, and you don't have to worry about it, you know, being in there. The only problem is if your alarm don't work, you could go a little ways without realizing that your thrasher door is open, and your crop will go right out the door. Don't ask me how I know. It happened a couple times until I ended up fixing a micro switch on it and making the alarm work. So if you do own a Gleaner combine, I highly recommend that you come up with some way to alert yourself if that happens, because it can also be caused by, if you have a wad of bean stubble or something that runs through too quick, you'll think that it passed on through, but actually it ended up popping that door open. So what I recommend is, if you could put some kind of micro switch on it, if your tattletales don't work, with just maybe like a amber trailer light or something, it would come on in a cab or something like that, just to alert you. But it is a pretty cool design, the way it works. And you also have to shim that door sometimes to make the latches work properly. I had to do that to this one because it was actually a little weak and it didn't take much at all to pop it open. I was having trouble with running wads of giant ragweed stem in the low ground, and it would pop it open and I wouldn't realize it. So just a little reminder, if you do end up with a Gleaner combine, to check into that, make sure that that is working properly and just doesn't pop open at random. So something that I think is very interesting about the Gleaner is Gleaner had always preached their center line balance. And the whole thing about the center line balance was they wanted to balance the machine out so it was balanced out side to side and front to back. And one of their ways that they made sure that the machine was balanced out side to side was getting the pile of grain in the center of the grain tank at all times. So that's when they came up with the floating auger, the clean grain auger. So the interesting thing about this is it actually rides the pile up. I know a guy I seen on Facebook the other night was asking how you keep, I don't know if I can do it, but he was asking how you keep that auger up, because he thought that you folded this up and it stayed up. No, it rides the pile up. And the reason it rides the pile up is that's because when it does that, it keeps the pile centered in the clean grain tank and keeps the combine balanced out. And the way it does that is this shield on top of it keeps the grain under it, and it keeps pushing it up and pushing it up and pushing it up. And once it's all the way to the top, these stand up straight, just like so, and they act as like little hopper toppers. But I like the concept of the way it works. I think it's really cool. Okay, so we're on top of the case combine, and I'll show you the inside of the engine compartment here. There's a lot going on down in here. We've got our separator belt, which that's the flat smooth one. And then the ribbed one is the rotor belt. That's what actually drives the rotor that does the shelling. That pulley over there has an electric motor that runs the two sprockets with the chain, and that's what changes your rotor speed. And then the other pulley over there that's sideways, that is your chopper drive for your chopper. And then there's a shaft that runs all the way to the front of the machine that actually drives the head. So there's a lot going on down in here. And then you have your 8.3 Cummins for your power. So hopefully you enjoyed this video of seeing the internals of these combines. If there's anything else you want to see, just let me know. And we can always do something else. Another big noticeable difference between a Gleaner combine and a case combine is the way their augers work. Now, the Gleaner auger is very sought after by guys that are after seed beans, or they like to raise different grains for seed, because they're so gentle the way they work. Because basically it's just a cross auger across the bottom of the grain tank, and then it just goes up at an angle and out, and there's no unneeded handling of the grain. Now on a case combine, it comes out of the bottom of the auger, it has to go straight up, then it has to go out of 90 past a gearbox and then out the unloading auger. So it's a little bit more trauma for the grain than it is in the Gleaner. But the beautiful thing about the turret style auger, like on all new combines, is they're plenty high to get over whatever you need to get over to unload into. With the Gleaner, with that little auger, I do struggle sometimes. I can just get close enough to the grain cart that I can dump into it, but I can only make a pile along one side and fill the cart unevenly. That's why Dad always tops it off, because he can get right in the middle of the cart and fill it right down the center. So on semis though, I do all right. But it would be nice to have another 3 feet added to that auger, but that would make it pretty long and stick out the back, and it might be awkward. So anyways, thank you for watching, greatly appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Kind of a last minute decision to make this one today, but I figured make a good video for today, since we're not going to be able to cut any beans anyways. So I'll have some more content We did check the beans. They did get like 2.5 inches of rain down here. The beans are pretty soft, so it's probably going to be a day or so before we can cut any. So we're going to head back shop, work on the M3, get it ready. I need to get the corn head put together for it. I've got a parts head I'm going to take parts off of and put on the 6 row for it, and then it should be ready to go. So anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you all in the next one.